I'm not sure if this is the case where you're located, but in the state of Michigan and definitely in Wayne County, if you asked any local director what their biggest challenge is, I'd be surprised if they didn't say staff shortage.
Yep.
Staff shortage is
It's
alive and
everywhere.
well, and especially in what we do. Special education are probably the area where you will see the most categories of teachers and support staff where there's staff shortages, more so than if you're an elementary general ed teacher. And I'm not saying that they don't have staff shortages in that area, but there are more staff shortages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my special guest today is Elizabeth Santer. Elizabeth is the executive director, for Special Education Services and Early Intervention Services for Wayne County RESA, and that's in Wayne, Michigan. Beth, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, Beth, tell us, what does an executive director with all of those things do? You must be incredibly busy.
Well, there's a lot of things that we do. So first I'll start with that Wayne County. You mentioned it's in Wayne, Michigan, but it is the largest county in Michigan. And so we service 33 local districts and 97 public school academies.
Wow.
So, yes, you're right. I'm busy, but our whole team is busy. It's the biggest county in Michigan. So, there's a lot that we do, and there's a lot of opportunities that I'm lucky to have. I worked at a local district for many years. I just joined RESA, which is an ISD, last July. And we get to work on statewide committees. We definitely want to make sure that our locals are feeling supported, and that's in compliance areas, but it's also in building systems and making sure that we also are putting priority goals in place that are put forth through Michigan Department of Education.
So tell our listeners what RESA actually stands for in Michigan.
RESA stands for Regional Education Services Association.
Gotcha. Okay. So you guys are in charge of, and Wayne County, for those of you that don't know, that's Detroit, right? We're talking about the city of Detroit. So this is, she's got a big area here. And so you guys are kind of helping manage and helping supply information to these schools. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two major buckets, but then there's a lot of things that fall into those buckets. So the first one would be that general supervision and accountability, which is more compliance of special ed.
Okay.
But then the other bucket is Act 18. So for those moderate to severe low incidence students, how are we servicing them? How are we programming for them? And making sure that the funds are funneled to those local districts so that they're able to support those students. Each of those buckets has different subunits, if you will. So general services and accountability, it isn't just compliance. I mean, that is obviously the main driver, but out of compliance comes opportunities to support. So, for example, you might be working with a district on state complaints, and maybe the state complaint is on least restrictive environment and not following the IEP and considering that. But as you dig into things and as you're working with that local district may have needs in other areas, or they may have very serious needs in that area where RESA is also able to provide some consultation services and some professional development, not just for the administration team, but also for all of their special education staff. So at RESA, we like to look at ourselves as a support for others and believe very much in that service leadership. So again, that's kind of an example of something that comes from general accounting and supervision. And then that other bucket, Act 18, there's a lot of things that come from that too. So yes, it's a funding source. And so we're helping our districts and we're looking at budgets and what they're asking for to service their students. That can be building expenses, it can be staff, it can be curriculum. But from that, you also have those students that are landing in those programs every day. And so it's important that we make sure that those programs are supported. Maybe they have behavioral needs with specific students that they need some help with. And we have a behavior team that will go in and work with that team and to develop systems. We also have what we call our WAT team, which is basically our assistive technology team. That's also kind of a subunit of that Act 18 programming. Because a lot of students that are low incidence, you mentioned you were a speech therapist. I was a former speech therapist. They may have a difficult time with language or speaking or not have any verbal speaking system at all. Because we are such a big county and we're an ISD, we also we also have to look at things very much from a systems lens because we're not going to live in that district every day, all
Right.
day.
Right.
So we have to make sure that the support we're giving is support that that district can actually pick up and then do. I like to say that we like to make sure we're not writing checks that other people have to cash without some intentionality there.
Right. That makes so much sense. That's so helpful because it just if there's nothing worse, right, than going to somebody and saying, "Hey, can you help me?" And then you get the advice, but it doesn't apply to what you're doing, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so being that so how does someone become the executive director? What was your career path? I know you said you were an SLP, but
Mhm.
how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So it was definitely a journey. And it was not something that I necessarily intended. It kind of found me.
Yeah.
So I started out in college actually as a sports broadcast major and then took a very sharp left turn into speech pathology and was very happy being a speech therapist for 19 years. 15 of
Yeah.
those years I worked part-time, raised my family, and after 19 years, I had some opportunities to get into leadership. And some of those leadership positions weren't necessarily administrative. I was a teacher consultant, I was a program specialist. Then I had the opportunity to become assistant principal at a middle school for a minute. And then I was a special education supervisor. And then I got the great fortune of being able to come to the district that served my kids and become the
Love it.
executive director of that local district. And then, after about 6 or 7 years of doing that, I had this opportunity to go to the county, which is kind of a natural outcome of being
Mhm.
in education for 33 years.
Right, right. Yeah, you and I are similar. I've been a therapist for 32 years, and so similar timelines. You went into the executive director in education, and I went to therapy company. So similar, just still in education, still serving, still making sure that kids are taken care of, right? Teachers are taken care of.
Absolutely.
1000%. Yeah. So, what would you say are some of your biggest wins recently?
Hmm. That's a great question. And there's wins in different areas, right?
Mhm.
And how you define a win. I would say that some of the work that RESA's doing right now, and of course, I'm the mouthpiece today, but I always want to mention it's the team. I mean, we're all
Mhm.
about our team.
Mhm.
I'm just highlighting what the work that we're already doing. Um,
Love that.
so at RESA right now, what we're focused on is we're very focused on least restrictive environment. We want to make sure that our students are not put into an environment with the kinds of supports and services that take them away from their general education peers without some serious thought. And so it happens to be one of Michigan's priority items. And Wayne County, we take that very seriously. So we're doing a lot of work on personal curriculums, which are basically waivers that can be a pathway for some of our special education students that may need modified standards in certain classes to lead them to a high school diploma, which can change the trajectory of a student's life. So it's important work. We also look at our entry exit criteria into our center programs that are for our low incidence or moderate to severe students, we want to make sure that the kids that are getting those supports are the kids that really need those supports. Um, we're doing a lot of work on MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, making sure that we are addressing the academic, the behavioral, and the social emotional, the whole child, and
Yeah.
making sure that those are proactive and preventative interventions, not
Yes.
reactive, which is more like an RTI model. We want to make sure we have community engagement under LRE. And we also want to make sure that we are looking at early childhood very seriously. Because a lot of times when kids are first starting out, their special education progression, if you will, that's an opportunity. So when you have that student that you're evaluating and qualifies for an IEP, where that student is placed can sometimes determine where that
Mm-hmm.
student stays placed. Now,
Right.
that's not necessarily what's supposed to happen. You have an IEP and you look at that every year, but that has been what has happened. So we have found that it is more likely that a student will be in a center program if they start in a center program when they're 3 years old. So we want to make sure that when we're making that decision, again, some students need that for their FAPE, but we want to make sure that the students that are placed into that center program, which is usually, well, in preschool, almost always away from general education peers, that we look at, does that student need that placement for FAPE? Or could they get services that would that they could have delivered in a preschool environment with their peers and their gen ed peers. And so we're doing a lot of work on that and making sure that we're thinking intentionally, being a little creative, think outside the box. When we have students that we feel like could be in a lesser restrictive environment at a very young age. And so that's all very exciting work that we get to also work at a state level and then that county level. In the past, there's been a lot of things that we've done that I've done that is exciting with teams at the local level too, but that's the current state of what we're doing at RESA.
Are you struggling to keep speech therapy fully staffed or tired of high turnover? You're not alone. At Lighthouse Therapy, our speech language pathologists are seasoned professionals, and most of them have over 16 years of school based experience. They're not just qualified, they're consistent, relational, and results driven. We offer 3 flexible delivery models: virtual therapy, hybrid therapy, and in person therapy. It's speech therapy done right for you and your students. Learn more at lighthouse-therapy.com/brighter together. And it's so important because those kids, they're with their peers. They're
Yeah.
with, and being with a quote normally developing child, there are things that we cannot teach that just does, that just gives them, and it just inspires them too. I think that I love that because I think inclusion and where education is going with special education is so important for those students. So I love that you guys are doing that. I really do. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so neat, so neat. So you said you have lots of people under you. So how do you what does a typical day look like for you then?
Wow, that's another great question. So I am gonna wordsmith a little bit what you said. I don't think of it as a lot of people that work under me. I really believe that we all work together.
There you go. True,
And
very true.
so I think it's
Great
more
answer there.
working alongside
Yeah.
with people because truly, whatever your title is, we're all in this for the work. It's all about the work. It's about serving kids, it's about serving communities, and so we're really all equal. Titles are just something that human resources use to processes your pay and your benefits and your paycheck and that kind of thing. Um, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to edit. What was the question after that?
No, no, that's totally okay. I said, what does a typical day look like for you?
What's typical day?
Because yeah.
Okay.
So,
So knowing that I work alongside all of these great people, a typical day can um, look atypical. Typical is atypical, especially in
Right.
special education. I mean, I think that's true even at the local level. Um, I would say that there are days that I I I always at a local level want it to be very building based, and I would say it's not that different at a county level. It's just harder. It's harder to be building based when you are servicing 33 locals and 97 public school academies. You're not going to get to all of those buildings.
Mhm.
But that being said, as I mentioned, we provide a lot of support to locals, and the best support can be when you're right there
Mhm.
and you are making sure that you're invested in learning all of the programs that each district has, meeting with directors, talking about what are your pain points, what are your glows and grows, and seeing where they need the help and where they need the support. So it could be that. It could be that either I'm providing professional development or one of our consultants is, and I want to hop aboard their train and see what they're working on with districts, because that also gives me that doorway into what's happening at that local level. It could be one of those paperwork days that we all know about in
Oh, yeah.
special education, where maybe we're working on some guidance docs and or compliance issues that we need to have shorn up. It also could be a lot of that work that came out of the least restrictive environment, the LRE committee at the state. It could be meetings about that. And so it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's fun, I think, when you have a position where you get to do lots of different things, where every day is something different, every day is something new. I love that, and you're serving the kids, you're serving your team, and I love the fact that you corrected me. That was really important because that tells me your heart, because it absolutely is true, and it's true here at Lighthouse as well. I tell people, I was like, I just get to captain this ship. I got lots of really, really smart people around me, and they make me look good. They make Lighthouse look good, but they lift us up and they make things better. And that is and I can't do it. I can't do all of those different things that they're doing. And it just is so important that when you're leading, that you're a part of a team, and you're not just dictating from above, right?
Yeah.
Super great.
And teams, I've always enjoyed teams, and being a former speech therapist, you kind of learn that right away. I mean, you can't do it all yourself,
Mm-mm.
and everybody brings something on that team. And I like it. I call it bringing and having friends to play with at work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you say is some of the biggest challenges in education right now? Because you're seeing it from a global view. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm not sure if this is the case where you're located, but in the state of Michigan and definitely in Wayne County, if you asked any local director what their biggest challenge is, I'd be surprised if they didn't say staff shortage.
Yep,
Staff shortage is
it's
alive and
everywhere.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Special education is probably the area where you will see the most categories of teachers and support staff where there's staff shortages, more so than if you're an elementary general ed teacher. And I'm not saying that they don't have staff shortages in that area, but there are more staff shortages
Mm-hmm.
when you get into more of those specific roles. So I think that is the biggest challenge. And that has a ripple effect, because when you have staff changes going on, and, if you have a team of 10 at a district, and let's say you have one or two new people, that's pretty easy to absorb and build consistency and sustainability, because you have a lot of veterans there,
Right.
or mid-level and then veteran people that are working with those two new people. But when you have districts that have out of 10 people, maybe eight are new, then, and maybe the mentors have only been there a couple of years. So they're not brand new, but they're newer.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it really hard to build systems and sustainable systems. And that is definitely something that RESA not only sees, but then is it requires our support
Mhm.
because those are districts that maybe are looking at, we need some help with building the system because you don't want to chase the problem, you want to get in front of it.
Front of it, yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it is a problem. Are there programs that are going on in Michigan right now to address the shortages? I know I've talked to some people in the past, and I know I've heard some stuff about um parapros and supporting and helping them. What has your experience been with those kinds of programs? Not necessarily that one, but what's your experience with programs?
Yeah, you're right. And we have hopped on that train where RESA is supporting and partnering with universities. So we have a partnership with Wayne State University and Eastern Michigan University, and that partnership it can follow different lanes.
Mhm.
So we have a cohort of people, special education providers that want to become special education supervisors and directors. So we have a cohort of those, like that bucket of people.
Mhm.
We also have para to teacher programs, which is what you were referencing. So, and then there are some programs that RESA doesn't necessarily host directly, but again, those universities we partner with do, where they have student teaching and accelerated programs and some out of the box ways of looking at how can you get from A to B in the most thorough but efficient way so that we can have more special education staff and teachers that are graduating.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like when you don't have enough and you're constantly trying to find more people and supporting them and keeping them
Yeah.
excited about what they're doing. And that's
Yep.
all about support. That's what we do too. I mean, it's just you mentor your people, you find good people and you don't want them to go. You want them to stay with you and you want them because the longer that you keep them, the better it is for the kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. The bottom line always. I love that. Every educator that I talk to, it's always and it should be as it should be. Let's take care of the kids. Let's take care of the smart people that we have so that they can take care of the kids. Yeah.
Yep.
So where do people go, Beth, if they want to learn more about what you guys are doing or about you? Where would they go?
So we have a great website at RESA. So it's if you Googled Wayne RESA, it would take you right to the site. Um, and we have a lot of excellent resources on our site. It isn't just special education. The one thing I didn't highlight, but is true at RESA, is that we also don't want to work in silos.
Yeah.
So in our department, we get the opportunity to work a lot alongside our general education leadership teams and consultants, and also IT departments. We do with ADA compliance, working with our IT department right now.
Mhm.
Um, so we're able to work together, and all of those resources are captured on our website.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, Beth. You guys are doing amazing stuff. I love what you guys are doing. I love that you're an SLP in the past. I love
Yeah.
that too. I don't get too many of them that
Yeah.
come on the show. So,
Yeah.
um,
We stick
it's
together,
we
right?
do, we do. Even though you're not doing neither one of us are actually well, I say I don't do therapy anymore, but boy, it's still such a part of my DNA and
Mhm.
supporting the therapists that are here is just so incredible. And you never stop. I don't think you ever stop being once you've become an educator, I don't think you ever stop being an educator.
Yeah.
Um so
Yeah,
thank
agree.
you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for Wayne County and what you're doing there. It's it was my I raised my kids in Michigan, and Michigan is such a big part of my heart and where we and I still have one in Wayne County, so he's there. So keep up the
That's
good
great. Well,
work.
thanks so much for having
Yeah,
me on.
absolutely. It's been a pleasure.